Welcome to Moms with a Call. We're not here to preach, convert, or fix you. We're here to listen.
We're Mackenzie.
And Rebecca, two women with messy stories, honest questions, and a quiet hope that maybe Jesus looks a lot more like love than we were ever shown. If you've ever wondered if there's a place for you in all of this, there is. Come, have a seat at the table. You're safe here. You're welcome here. Let's begin.
Cheers.
Cheers.
All right. So tonight we are having a really special episode on your testimony and your story, and I'm so excited to get started. How we're going to do this is we're going to have a previous recording, right? So we're going to have this fully recorded out. I obviously know your testimony, you know my testimony. However, we figured as listeners, it would be really cool to hear the whole testimony out. And then we kind of have feedback. So throughout this episode, we're going to kind of pause, reflect on the testimony, and then go from there. Does that sound good?
Sounds great. Like most gardens, there are many different species of plant life, all needing to be tended to, cared for, acknowledged, and seen for what they are and how they can not only thrive individually, but together as well. Some need an abundance of water and maintenance. Others are mostly self-sufficient, but all need quality soil and a certain level of care to survive. None can survive without a gardener who knows exactly how to care for each particular plant and an environment where they can all coexist together to create something really beautiful. This is transformation. This is community formed through harmony and unity. This is relationship with our Creator. When I think about my current physical and emotional state, the first thing that comes to mind is wrecked. My body has slowed down long enough for decades of suppressed feelings to catch up to it. I've felt physically sick for a solid 3 years now. I've felt mentally and emotionally sick with present symptoms since I was 17 years old. Today, I am 30 and just now learning what healing looks like. That is over 10 years of anxiety, doubt, fear, and a long period of self-destruction. For over a decade, I have taught my brain to cope with the present raging panic attack, but I concealed the fear, doubt, and anxiety, and I began to disassociate into my own little world that only I had the key to. A world that I called my bubble to my friends and family was more like a secret garden. It was really peaceful there, but it was romanticized, not an actual reality. And when someone tried to disturb that space I created, the panic would start to rise. Can you blame me, though? I felt safe there in that world, my garden. But as I locked myself inside, I forfeited the ability to heal. When I stepped outside of the garden into the reality of a broken world, I had no self-protection or emotional survival skills. I was just a fragile flower that could so easily float off with the wind of brokenness that I saw all around me. So I'd retreat to the garden again, until one day I was forced out. My garden didn't exist anymore. Not in the way I was used to. It was overrun by panic and anxiety. I was hiding in a reality that did not exist anyway. I didn't have the tools or the weapons to defend my secret garden. I didn't even have the skills or knowledge to water that garden and make it fruitful. It was just stagnant, unattended to, slowly suffocating from lack of life, maintenance, or a gardener who knew how to care for it. It needed an actual creator, someone who knew about life and how to sustain it. I realized the key to my world that I held on to so tightly, so dearly, just represented a sense of control that I was unwilling to forfeit, but had to anyway. So I left the garden and entered into the pit.
Okay. So the first part First of all, I just wanted to say how I really, really loved how the Lord structured this for you. Can you explain the structure of this and like how that came to you before we even dive
Y-
into it?
Yes. It's kind of written more as a short story
Mhm.
rather than a full, I guess, play-by-play
Mhm.
of my story, my testimony. I was just like sitting in quiet time, reflecting. I knew we were going to write our testimony soon, and I didn't know what that was going to look like for me.
Yeah.
Um, and I so clearly, it was almost like I got struck with like this creative
Mhm.
zap and I just started typing away. So it didn't really feel, it felt more like the Lord driven than me
Mhm.
writing it. Um, and the garden was just something that stuck in my mind as like a metaphor to use.
Are you a gardener at all?
No. And I
No.
have like no green thumb
Me either.
whatsoever. Like you look around my house and it's fake plants everywhere because
It looks great, especially
I,
for the Amazon delivery photos. When they
yes,
take a picture, it looks like you're because I just had what shipped delivered to your house,
yes,
and the picture looks so nice. I was like, wow, our flowers are so nice.
her fake
They're
flowers on the
fake.
front porch. Yes. I love the idea of gardening and I have high hopes for myself to
Mhm.
be that person one day. We'll just have to see. But yeah, it was the metaphor of the garden. And then I felt like God was like, I want you to explain me as the gardener,
Yeah.
not really as God, essentially, if that makes sense. Like the
Yeah.
verbiage I use is less of like God or Lord, and it's the gardener. I
Yeah.
felt like he wanted to be shown in that light almost.
Well, I think it's so interesting. Sorry, my phone almost fell, but I think it's so interesting reading it and hearing it and being in that space. I think it's a really beautiful example of how the Lord can be so many different things, and
Absolutely.
the God or the Lord or even Jesus now has this connotation sometimes when you're speaking about it in public with people who aren't, sure of their faith, or it can kind of be like, oh gosh, like I'm turned off by that. But when you
Hmm.
say like a gardener, people who like you think highly of gardeners, right?
Right.
You think highly of also the vegetables and the plants and everything in there. They don't have like they're probably excited to be gardened, right? I mean,
Hmm.
they don't have feelings, I'm assuming.
They might.
People let me know
Yeah.
they might though. But it's exciting because you're gardening such an exciting time. So I just thought it was so interesting. So I don't want to take up too much time talking about the structure of it, but I've never really seen a testimony that way or heard one that way, and it's drastically different from mine,
Mhm.
which I love.
Yeah.
And so
It just shows him in many different lights.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's beautiful. Okay,
Thank
well,
you.
I have some questions on my phone that I'm going to ask you about it. And if anything comes up or we want to go off on a tangent, we totally can.
Okay.
So
I'm sure we
I'm
will.
sure, I'm sure we love you. So in it, you kind of talk about your secret garden in the
Mhm.
first part. What did that secret garden represent to you at the time, and how did it help or hinder your healing journey?
Mhm. That is a great question because it's really like that saying that two things can be true at the
Yeah.
same time, where it did feel helpful, but it also was hindering me at the
Mhm.
same time. It was really a place for me to disassociate, like
Yeah.
straight up. And my friends and family will know I called it my bubble. Like a perfect example would be someone coming up to me and saying, "Did you hear this on the news?" And I'm like, "Mm,
No.
that can't enter into my space because I will panic. I
Mhm.
will get anxiety." Or
Do you think that's bad?
yes and no, because it made me, instead of making me confident
Mm-hmm.
and that I could walk through those things, it made me
Avoid
avoidant.
it. Yeah.
But it also was a way for me to regulate. So,
I think it's interesting at different points in people's lives, they kind of need different things. So I
Mhm.
wonder if at that point, I know it probably, the way that you described it isn't a good period
Mhm.
in your life, but I'm wondering if that was a period in your life that you almost needed to have
Yeah,
and needed to get through.
sure.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's probably true, and I think, um, it was more just a tool for me to emotionally survive,
Yeah.
I think, and I don't think it's a bad thing to
No.
have that quiet space in your mind where things are really peaceful and you can go and regulate and calm your nervous system down, and you have your tools to be able to do that. I think that's crucial. The difference was I was
No, that
disassociating.
makes sense. Because right now I am very, like, my mom knows not to send me YouTube videos about
Yeah,
anything on
yeah. And that's
because I'm like, no, I don't. It's more of a protect my
a
energy,
boundary.
yeah,
Mhm.
versus I know if I saw it, I could handle it
Sure.
or work through it. Yes, a lot of stuff is going on right now in our world and it's stressful, but there's always a lot of stuff going on in our world
Right.
and it's stressful. So I wonder, how did you distinguish between maybe it being a boundary and an avoidant tactic?
Well, I think the whole point was that I didn't.
You didn't.
And I didn't have that's why I pretty much had to let go of it
Was it a
because
control thing?
absolutely
Yeah.
a control thing. I felt like if I could control the conversation and the energy around me, then I wouldn't have to feel those things.
Mhm.
Um, Whereas if I could learn to invite that stuff in and regulate and process in a healthy way, then I can totally
Then it's no
handle
problem.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's no problem. It was just how I was taking care of my mind.
Yeah.
I just
I also think that that's pushed a lot to almost be avoidant. At least I've seen and I don't know if there's, like I said, I think there's different times that you need certain thing, you need to be a certain way, but I do think that it's all about your mindset and your bubble. Like I, so I'm interested. It's interesting to hear that you look back on it now and you're like, oh no, I wasn't actually like, I thought I was doing this for myself
Mhm.
and I was, but it didn't have the effect that I thought it would have. It would have
Right.
been so much better to just figure out what's going on and try to
Mhm.
push through it. And is that right?
Right, and to
Yeah.
see what worked for me as
Yeah.
an individual as far as, like, coping skills
Mhm.
and processing and things like that.
Yeah.
I think if I had the tools and the care,
Mhm.
sure, that
But
garden probably would have flourished,
then you
but
wouldn't have had this beautiful story.
yeah,
So,
exactly.
okay, so we kind of touched on it with control, but what did it mean to surrender the key?
Yes, the key was the control, where
Yeah.
I was like, "Only I can get in here. This is my space. You can't enter it," essentially. I don't feel as if I surrendered it as much as it was
It was
taken,
t- mm, Ooh,
if
okay.
that makes sense.
Yeah,
Because I don't have that moment of surrendering control. I think I did later,
but not in that moment.
but not in that moment. That moment was I was stepping into a time in my life that I call the pit, where I'm just
Yeah.
entering into hell on earth. And so I felt like the key was taken, the garden was completely overran, and
Mhm.
I was like
Push out.
pushed out.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I can't imagine
Yeah.
how low that must have felt.
I think it was more confusion
Yeah.
than anything.
How do you, I guess looking now, and we'll dive into this a little bit more, but how do you differentiate between true peace and this illusion of safety? And yeah, how do you differentiate between the two?
Between peace and safety?
Like an illusion of
An
safety. So
illusion
this
of
like
safety.
fake garden, not fake,
Yes.
but so like how do you know if it's actually, you know, this is true peace and I'm calm and I'm, protecting my energy. I have those boundaries. This is or it's just an illusion of safety. Like
Yeah,
this,
yeah.
I'm putting these guards up. I'm doing
Mhm.
that. Like, how do you differentiate between the two?
That was something I had to learn along the way. Um, and peace was something I was always searching for.
Yeah, me too.
It was something I always felt like just was not there.
Yeah.
And I think now that I feel like I've found true peace, I can see where that was an illusion of safety. The difference would be for me, the relationship with God. That was
Yeah.
like the one piece. There was always something missing along my journey, and I looked at everything.
Yeah.
It was something I was always chasing after, something I was always looking for, but could never
Did
find.
you know that it was a higher being that you were?
No.
No, not at all. It was because I
A
know you
feeling.
mentioned.
I was chasing a feeling. Um, I was chasing a structure on how to build my life, what energy could be around me, what my home would
Yeah.
look like, because that would be my safe place. It was, I never had that. It's a higher power that I'm missing until I read the Bible.
Well, I think it's so interesting because you kind of mentioned, and this is maybe earlier is this before you got into astrology and numerology? Did you get into, it was just astrology, right?
I've been
Into everything.
well, yes and no. I feel like I surface leveled
Kind of looked
everything
into it.
just to find something that made sense.
So you were still just looking for a feeling. I feel like a lot of people that dive deep into that are still looking for some kind of higher being. And so they're looking for source or creator or versus God, our God or Jesus. And so it can all be the same. I do truly think that sometimes we're all talking about the same person.
Yeah.
But we'll get into that
To some degree.
To some degree. It just depends on your relationship with them. I can't tell you who you're talking to. It's only you and God, if that's what you're speaking to. So anyway, I digress. So the next episode will really dive into your childhood and the true beginning of your story.
Yeah.
Alrighty. I'm excited.
Time to get vulnerable.
I know. Thanks for being here with us today. If something resonated, maybe a sentence, a silence, or a story, hold on to that. If you felt seen or stirred or simply curious, we hope you'll join us again. Until then, stay open, stay tender, and remember, there's always a seat for you at the table.